Amen. You may be seated. Okay, so last week we dealt with John's explanation of what it means to really love. We talked about in detail that indeed it is impossible to call yourself a Christian and to hate. It's impossible. In fact, what John does is he compares this idea of hate to when Cain slew Abel. And as we talked last week, that indeed the charge of the Christian, as Jesus gave to his disciples in John chapter 13, he said, the new commandment I give you, that you love one another. And he said, this is how you'll know you're my disciples, that you love your brother. And so we understand and know that it is indeed this idea of love in the Christian community that makes the Christian community not only just cohesive, but it also makes it attractive to the world. And so in John's description or his explanation of love in the mind of the Christian, when he compares that hate indeed, when he makes hate basically the murder of Cain was, or the murder of Abel was Cain hating his brother. And then how can you say that you love your brother, you love God, and if you hate your brother? Amen. That indeed, as a Christian, if you're going to model Christian character, you have to love your brothers. And now there's context beyond church in what he says, but he's focusing on the love in the Christian community. So our discipleship is not by our preaching, our tongue talking, our laying on of hands, our discipleship. Those are, of course, manifestations of disciples. But really, our discipleship is how we love our brothers and sisters in church. How we love one another. In fact, and the reason why we love each other so in the church is because what he goes on to say, as we talked last week, that the world hates us. The world doesn't like what we stand for. The world does not want to accept the fact that indeed Jesus is real. And in fact, the world hates us because we remind them indeed that they are wicked, and Jesus, those of us who live his life, are the righteous ones. And so since the world hates us, then we should love each other just that much more.
Yes. Right.
Because where else are we going to get support from if we're really standing in Christ? If I'm standing in Jesus and the world hates me, the only place that I can really get support is with my brothers and sisters in the house of God. And so we talked last week in detail that the expression of love in the house of God has to come up higher. In fact, we talked that the love that God commands of us is definitely out of this world. And so we have to operate in that. And so now John continues. Again, we're still talking about being born again. Remember, that new you inside that has no point of reference outside of God has to come to God to understand it fully. And what John teaches us is that indeed you cannot come fully, you cannot be in true fellowship with God without love for your brother and sister in Christ and obedience to the things of God. It's impossible. And so now he kind of reinforces that, but also he moves into this idea of knowing. He talks about persuasion. He talks about confidence. So that's kind of what we're going to focus on today. Is because it is important that I am persuaded in my mind and in my heart that indeed I am God's elect. Because I won't behave as the elect. I won't operate in my election unless I'm persuaded, unless I'm sure, unless I know that I know. And so we're going to talk about that. We're going to try to illuminate to you exactly what it means to be who I am and how I'm supposed to be in God. So in 1 John chapter 3, picking up where we left off last week, he says, my little children, let us not love in word, neither in tongue, but in deed and truth. So when we're talking about love, we talked about this last week, but basically what he's trying to get us to understand is you can't say or you can't demonstrate love unless it's in action. Love is not a word that you just say without some action. There's got to be some action involved in love. We don't love without some type of action. I can't say that I love you if I'm not participating in some type of benevolence towards your being, towards who you are. I can say I love you, but it's an action word. And so John says, listen, if we're going to really love our brothers and sisters, we can't do it in word. We have to do it in deed. So we've got to be found doing stuff for our brothers and sisters in Christ. And what we talked about last week, the least I could, or the highest thing I could do is take a bullet for my brother and sister. That's the example that he gives in St. John chapter 3. He says, Jesus died for us. We should be willing to do the same. So the highest order that I could do is take a bullet for Brother Henry. But he said, the least I could do, the least I could do is provide for them when they're in need. So then my demonstration of love becomes me providing for them whatever their need might be. And you understand and know somebody might have a need and you provide for it. That's a demonstration of your love to them. And so he says, the most I can do is take a bullet, but the least I can do is provide for your needs. Because when I see you in need and I come to your aid, that is a demonstration or that's proof that I love you. Now, if I see you in need and I don't come to your aid, that's an obvious thing that I don't love you, even though I say I love you. And we talked about how James talks about what good is it to pray for somebody or to say, God bless you, if I see you in need and I don't help too. It's not love. And so what John is saying, he's re-emphasizing this point. Listen, if you are going to be really born of God, you not only have to obey God, but you got to love your brothers and sisters in Christ. And you can't do it by words, you got to do it by action. You've got to put your foot forward. You've got to walk some steps out. You've got to put your hands to some proverbial gospel plow. You've got to put your hands on the life of other people so you can demonstrate that you love them. It's not just in word, it's in deed. He says, and in truth. In other words, you've got to be true. You've got to be sincere. You've got to do this truthfully. Truthfully. So watch this. He goes on now in verse 19. And so this is now the transition of where we're going to pick up. He says, and hereby we know that we are of the truth and shall assure our hearts before him. So watch this now. One of the issues that I have to deal with in being born of God is because I can't feel being born of God. My emotions are not going to accurately tell me I'm indeed born of God. The way sometimes I feel, depending on what I'm dealing with, I might not feel like I'm born of God. But I've got to know that I am, and I've got to be persuaded that I am, because if I go by my feelings, I might not operate like I'm supposed to. If I go by my emotions, I might be up or down. Or if I operate by what I experience, then I might not be solely sold out or committed to the fact that I am indeed born again. So I've got to be clear. He says simply no. So in other words, that there's no wavering, there's no back and forth, there's no, well, I don't know. Today I feel born again, tomorrow I don't. No. You've got to be made up in your mind. You have to be persuaded. You have to be convinced that you are indeed born of God. Because if you're not, you will not maximize the potential of the born again reality that is in your life. You will be on the fence instead of achieving the fullness that God wants you to achieve, because you don't really know. You're not really sure. Today, you in faith. Next week, ain't no telling what's going to happen based on your circumstance. And so he says, listen, you've got to get to the place where you stand in this, you know this, that you walk in this, not based upon your emotions or your feelings, but based upon your knowing. So, and so he goes on to say, he says, listen, he says, and hereby we know that we are of the truth and shall assure our hearts before him. For if our heart condemn us, God is greater than our heart that knoweth all things. So watch now. Now here's the problem. I've got to be persuaded. I've got to be persuaded about what God has done in my life. Might not feel it depending on my circumstances. But if my heart is not made up right, if my heart begins to condemn me, then I'm in trouble. And of course the idea for heart now, cardia, the Greek term, it is the inner man. So watch this. He says, for if our heart condemn us, and condemn means to find fault. So watch this now. The devil knows, and the enemy's design is to make us unsure when we stand before God. That's his design. That's what he's trying to do. And so what John is saying, listen, I want to caution you before you get to this place. You need to know, and you need not to walk in condemnation before God, because you are indeed born again. If you're in condemnation, if you're in shame and fear when you stand before God, you will not operate in your born-again reality. And so I need you to make up. I need you to know that indeed, when you stand before God, you have right to stand there. You are in good standing before him, and don't let your heart talk you out of it. So watch this now. Look deeply in verse 20. He says, for if our heart condemn us, in other words, if our heart finds fault, God is greater than our heart and knows all things. Watch this now. So this understanding, this persuasion of God, or this persuasion of being born again, comes from assurance. You need to write that down. By persuasion in God, knowing that I'm persuaded that I am indeed who God said I am, comes from my assurance. I am assured that I am who God says I am, because of these two things. The first thing is, he says, if my heart condemns us. In other words, even in my heart, if I'm standing before God, or I'm praying, or I'm seeking God, or I'm operating in my born-again reality, if I stand before God and my heart determines, yeah, you're not right, it's not right, you shouldn't be standing before God, you can't ask God nothing, you can't do what God has called you to do, he says, God is greater than my heart. Okay, let me see if I can adequately explain this to you in the fullness of what he's saying. Watch this now. This knowing now is not a feeling, it's about consciousness. Oftentimes the devil plays against our consciousness to say, I'm not worthy to stand before God. And watch this. The first thing I understand is God, he says here in the text that God is greater than our heart and knows all things. So watch this now. My heart cannot pass sentence greater than God, because God is greater than my heart. So then my heart cannot be the final say. My heart cannot be the established rule of law that I follow. I've got to follow something greater than my heart. Glory. Jeremiah 17:9 tells us that the heart is deceitful above everything, and it's wicked. Who could know it? Listen, even in an ungenerated state, my heart is still not 100% pure, even though I want it to be. So I have to be careful in determining my born again and the things that God has asked me of based upon my heart's cry, instead of what God has said or declared in my life. He says, listen, if our heart condemns us, if your heart's telling you that you aren't right or you're not worthy, let me give you good news. God is greater than your heart. In other words, your standard of measure is not your heart, it is God's word, or it is God's book, or it is God's instruction. God's standard is what you base on whether you are condemning yourself or not. You don't have to walk in condemnation based upon what your heart position is. You walk in the newness and born again reality that God has declared for you already. He says, if your heart condemns us, even in your heart, you say, I'm unworthy. And listen, you know you, but God knows you greater. And God's standard is what determines your worthiness, not you. So don't get to the place, thank you, where you are questioning your born again status based upon your heart or how you feel or your inner man. That's not where born again is taught and processed. In fact, it is good that we analyze our internal motives, our insides, our heart, understanding where our spirit is. But even those things don't manifest into the standard that God has set for us. Because I can think I'm doing well. I can think I'm doing what God called me to do, and I can be 100% wrong. So he says, listen, even if your heart is not, if you feel like you are not worthy or you're not right, or your heart finds some other fault in you, don't let that stop you. Let God determine what the level is. Let God determine your worthiness and your righteousness. Let God determine if indeed you are in the faith or not. And he gives you the blueprint. So yes, follow the blueprint, then you can determine if indeed you are who God said you are. And so then he says, in the next verse, he says, all right, at the close of 20, he says, and knoweth all things. So first thing, watch this. God is greater than my heart. So I don't have to try to fit this mold of what my heart or what my emotions feel should be best. I've got to fit what God says is best. I've got to do what God determined is right. That's my standard. That's my measure. So when I stand before him, I'm not standing based upon how I feel, what I think. I'm standing on what he said. And he goes on to say, not only is God greater than your heart, but he knows all things. This is the part that excited me this morning. Watch this. God doesn't just know something. He knows everything. In other words, watch this. God knows exactly who you are. God knows exactly what you are. God knows where you've been, what you've done, and he knows all of it. And he still loves you. He still desires you. He still wants to have a relationship with you. As wretched and messed up as we have been, God says, I still want you. That's enough to make me shout. That's enough to get me excited. Because even when I don't do everything the way God wants me to, he still wants me. He knows everything. I can't hide nothing from him. So it ain't no sense in me trying to hide it. I can be honest. I don't have to have shame or be afraid because God knows it all anyway. And he still desires me. Wretched, old, undone me. Silly, foolish me. Dumb, blind, ignorant me. He wants all of me. Every aspect of me. No matter what I do, how I do it, and where I've been. He still wants me. Even though he knows. Even though he knows. And the second thing, watch this. Not only does he know everything about you, but still wants you. And still desires you. But he also knows what he put in you. He also knows what he called you to. He also knows the Jesus Christ that he's established for you to be like. He knows exactly what's inside of you. So don't quit. Don't be condemned in your own spirit or in your heart. Know that I put the word of God down in you. I placed the seed inside of you. And that's what I'm trying to get out. You might be frustrated. You might be not doing what you think is so what God has called you to do. But don't let that stop you from moving forward and obeying and loving. Just trust and believe that the thing that I'm working in you, I'm going to work it out. I'm going to bring it to fruition. God knows everything. Not only does he know the frailty of your frame, he also knows the power that's inside of you. If you would allow God to use the potential that he's put inside of you, if you would put down your feelings, your heart, your emotions, all these other things, and just accept what he said, he said, I can do wonders even in through you. God knows everything. He knows who you are, and he knows, most importantly, what he's put inside of you. So you don't go to God, well, I don't feel worthy, and I don't know, and I didn't do this, and I don't do that. No. Put that down and pick up what he said. All right. Pick up what he said. Yes, there is a level of obedience that's required. Don't get it twisted. Yes, you got to love your brothers and sisters, but listen, you've got to start looking over. We talked about this in Bible study this week. There's got to be some self-examination. In fact, if you go throughout the whole scripture, the Old Testament and the New Testament, there is multiple requests for us to search our own hearts. We've got to be found responsible, working our own soul salvation with fear and trembling. You remember the text. There's also passages in the Psalms that say, God, search my heart. Test my reins, see. In other words, and Paul even says, examine yourself to see if you're in the faith. There is a need for us to examine where we are in God, if we are indeed obedient. God, so I understand that. But don't let your eyes be your standard. Let God's word be the standard, and then you just follow the standard. You obey God like he asks. You love everybody like he asks. In other words, you look over your life and see, is there a pattern of obedience to God in my life? Is there a pattern of me loving my brothers and sisters in Christ? When somebody's in need, do I reach out? Even if they're not in need, do I check and say, hey, are you okay? Is there a pattern of me being interested in something other than myself? If indeed that's the truth, I can stand before God without condemnation. Not because I deserve or I earned anything. It's because that's his standard of being able to get an answered prayer through. That's his standard of him moving me into blessing. That's his standard of me walking into what he has already wrought for me to have. All right. And so I've got to make sure that when I go to God, my standard for going to God is not what I think, not what I see, not what I feel, not my emotions, not my experience, but it's what he says, what he knows, and he knows it all, and he knows everything. So not only does he know me and still want me, but he knows what he put inside of me. And since he put that inside of me, then he says in verse 21, beloved, in our heart condemns us not. Then we have confidence in God, or confidence towards God. So watch this. So even if my heart is playing tricks on me, I can trust God and believe in his word, and so I don't have to have condemnation. So if I'm at a place where I'm condemning myself before God, I've got to come up higher. And that higher here is evident in verse 21. He says, beloved, if our heart condemn us not. So I've got to get to the place where my heart no longer condemns me. In other words, I've got to put down what I think ought to be and pick up the standard that God has already set. And then I just got to yield to his spirit and follow those things that he asked me to follow after. And then my heart will no longer condemn me. My heart will be persuaded that indeed I can stand before God without condemnation. I don't have to have fear or shame before God, because like John said, I have obeyed the gospel. I do follow Jesus, and I love the brothers. I love the sisters. I do exactly what God has asked me to do in that regard, so I don't have to worry about when I stand before God, because I already know I've got confidence because my heart is persuaded. It knows. I can look at the course of my life and see what my life has become. I can look at what I do and what I say and how I treat people. I have no fault standing before God. No. I can see. No, I'm not perfect. No, I make mistakes. But I know in my heart, and God knows everything. He knows what he's placed inside of me. And so I don't have to have condemnation. I need to graduate to the place where I stand before God without condemnation. I need to graduate to the place where I stand before God without shame. I need to graduate to the place where I stand before God without fear of retribution, because I don't think I did something that he wanted me to do. He says, 21, he says, beloved, if our hearts condemn us not, then we have confidence toward God. This word confidence, this idea, the word that he's using here, it is the Greek word confidence. It means freedom of speaking. It means unreserved speech. It's also synonymous with boldness. So watch this. When I look over my own life, I monitor my own spiritual development. I take precautions over my heart. I do what God has called me to do. I go after the things that God is going after. I love like God tells me to love. My heart then is confident. In other words, it promotes in me freedom of speech.
All right.
In other words, I'm no longer afraid to declare or to ask God what his word declares that I can have and what his word declares that I am. I can boldly declare I am the righteousness of God, and I don't care what you think. I can declare, I shall decree a thing, and it shall be established, because God knows everything, and God is the one who called me and put that down on the inside of me. He says, listen, you must understand, I have confidence, not because there's some arbitrary list of checkpoints in my heart or in my mind that I've achieved. In fact, when I put myself on my own scales, I often come up short. But thanks be to God that he already knew I was going to come up short. And he sent his son to cleanse me of my sins that made me come up short, and then cleanse me of all unrighteousness, and then declare that I am indeed the righteousness of God, so that there is no hindrance to my access to him. And so he says, I've got to be clear. I've got to understand this relationship is not based upon our feeling. It's about a knowing. I know who I am in God. Jesus, I know who I am in God. because God told me who I was. No, I don't feel like it. Sometimes I really don't feel like who God called me to be, but guess what? I am. I might not believe, he might have to work on my faith and sway me and persuade me sometimes. But even then, I am who he said I am. Whether I believe it or not, I am indeed who he called me to be. So once I get my own heart and my own thoughts out the way and walk in what he said, then I can operate as he wants me to operate in.
Come on now, come on.
Jesus, I've got to get out of the way. I'm the problem. I'm the issue. Because I don't just trust what he said.
Come on now.
I just got to trust what he said.
Amen.
I have to trust what he said. Your faith ain't going to help me. Mama's faith ain't going to help me.
Right.
Grandmama's faith ain't going to help me.
Yeah.
I've got to trust.
All right.
I've got to believe. I've got to receive. So watch this now. In this confidence, this freedom of speaking, this unreservedness in speech, this boldness, your standard, my standard, don't determine if I'm worthy to come to God. You might not think I'm worthy.
All right.
Don't matter. You might not think I'm anointed. Don't matter.
Right.
You might not think God called me for this hour. Don't matter.
Right.
Because God said he did, so I am indeed what he said. So what is now going through that? He says we have confidence toward God. In other words, I can approach God with boldness. I have freedom of speech, and you know how it is. When you love your children right, when you support them, when you give them everything they need, they will ask you some stuff, and you'll be like, what in the world? Why would you ask me that?
Yeah.
Can I have, I want that. I want that. Wait a minute, you ain't looked at my bank account, you ain't thought about your grades, you ain't thought about nothing. You just want it.
Yeah.
And you ask for it. But now when we get to teaching them a standard, a rule, we get them a guideline, well, I don't know if I should ask for that because I might not deserve it. That's not the love that God wants us to have. He says, listen, don't let your heart condemn you. You need to get to the place where you're not condemned when you go before God. So you've got to get this in your mind that your standard is not God's standard. That God has a totally different standard. It might be higher than your standard, but either way, it's not your standard, it's his standard. So you need to operate by his standard and not your own.
Right.
And so he goes on to say, he says, verse 22, and whatsoever we ask, we receive of him. Because we keep his commandments and we do those things which are pleasing in his sight. I'm going to jump to the close of that. It is, as a born-again person, I naturally want to do what God says pleases him.
Right.
If I don't have the propensity to want to please God, there's a disconnect.
Okay.
Born of God people want to please God.
Amen.
Not please pastor. Not please my brothers and sisters in church. I want to please God.
Yes.
So there are some things God's going to tell me to do you don't understand. That's not my problem. My problem is to follow what God said. Because what he says here in 22, and whatsoever we ask, we receive of him because we keep his commandments. We walk as he asked us to walk. He told us to do something, and we did it.
All right.
I'm sorry you don't agree. I'm sorry you don't believe. I'm sorry you don't receive. That's not my fault. And in fact, that's your issue, not mine. So you need to take that to the Lord, not me. He says so watch this now. This idea now, this premise of us having this confidence toward God is really, if you look at it here, he's using it as a prerequisite, or he's using it as a way for us to go to God and get what God is asking us for. But be careful, because we think, okay, well, I can ask God anything, he's going to hook me up. No, that's not how this works. Basically, when I have assurance or I'm persuaded that I am who I am in God, that's when my desire dies to his desire. And so now, when I'm asking God, I'm asking his stuff, not mine. Jesus. Even when I ask for healing, even when I ask for deliverance, that's the stuff he promised. That ain't necessarily stuff that I've picked up out of the air. That's the stuff that he said is mine. And so my desires become his desires. And so then when I pray, I'm really seeking what he wants. And then that's why it comes to pass. Amen. But it's done that in the midst of keeping his commandments. And watch this. This is a thing of fellowship. I don't get what I want in prayer. Or I don't get the desires of my heart in prayer because I've obeyed.
Amen.
I obey so I get what I ask for in prayer. I'm going to say it again. I don't get what I ask for in prayer because I obey. I obey, and as a result of obeying, or as an aspect of obedience, I get what I ask for.
All right.
So listen, I can't go out and say, okay, well, I'm going to obey God today, and he's going to answer my prayer. Because then the obedience becomes the source. That's not what John is saying here. He says, listen, we have fellowship with God, we follow God, we do what God has asked us to do, and then as a product of us being obedient, we walk into what God has promised. So I got to recognize, I'm not, and this is not manipulation of God. This is not getting God to give me stuff that he ain't already want to give me. This is me following God and obeying him, even in prayer. So I stand before him without condemnation. I know exactly who I am. And if ain't nobody receive it, I receive it, and that's enough for me. I receive it. It's enough for me. I just got to believe. You don't have to believe. I just have to believe. And so he goes on to say, he says, watch this. He says, and whatsoever we ask, we receive of him because we keep his commandments and do those things which are pleasing in his sight. And that is the thing that the born-again person has to resolve and based upon what he said, just yield and follow. That I desire to please God. Yeah, sometimes now pleasing God will please my pastor. Sometimes, yes, pleasing God will please my brothers and sisters. Sometimes pleasing God will please my spouse. Sometimes pleasing God will please my children. But guess what? That's not the motivation. I don't please God so my wife likes me. I please God because that's my desire. That's my heart's desire. The regenerated, born-again spirit inner me wants to please God. And so these things are a result of me desiring to please God. God ushers me to places that open doors, and ushers me to places that fulfills my needs, and ushers me to places that blesses my life, and ushers me to places that cause the heavens to open, and ushers me to places that realities begin, the spiritual things become natural things, and I get blessed by them. It is through that obedience, it is through that fellowship with him that walks me into those places. And so John goes on to say, he says, and this is his commandment, that we should believe on the name of his son Jesus Christ and love one another as he gave us commandment. Turn with me quickly to St. John chapter 15, and I'm about done. St. John chapter 15. I want you to look at this. St. John chapter 15. Because again, like we talked last week, the Apostle John, here in this epistle, he refers back to his gospel writing when he takes these examples. So in John chapter 15, go there quickly. All right, are you there? John 15. And in John 15, I want to read from verse 7 to verse 10. Because I want you to say, he starts out with, I'm the branch and you're the vine, or I'm the vine, you're the branches. And so he talks about this need of fellowship and connection. But watch what he said in verse 17. If you abide in me, and my word abides in you, you shall ask whatever you will, and that shall be done unto you. So that sounds pretty similar to what 1 John chapter 3 and 20 says. So again, like I said, John goes back to his gospel to kind of bring stuff home. But what Jesus here says, and again, my words are read, so this is Jesus talking. Abiding in me, fellowship in me, leads to your prayers being answered. Not because you've done not for anything that you're manipulating. It's just a result of obedience. It's just a produce, if you will. But he goes on to say this here. He says, herein is my Father glorified, that you bear much fruit, so you shall be my disciples. As the Father hath loved me, so I have loved him. Continue in my love. If you keep my commandments, you shall abide in my love, even as I have kept my Father's commandment and abide in his love. I want to read verse 11. These things have I spoken unto you, that my joy might remain in you, and that your joy might be full. Watch this now. So he says, listen, this abiding that I want you to have, this abiding is going to connect you to me, and it'll unlock some things for you. You'll walk into some things that I have prepared for you that you wouldn't walk into if you were disobedient. So he says, but listen, I'm saying this to you so that my joy might be in you. The good news of the Father's love, the good news that indeed God knows everything about you and still desires to be with you, the thing that God knows everything that he's put inside of you ought to bring you to a place of joy. And not just Jesus' joy, he says my joy, but he says to your joy be full. I can't stand people who call themselves Christians and ain't got no joy. Because it's impossible, if you really look at this like Jesus said to look at it, for you not to have joy. In fact, the fact that you abide in him and he abides in you, and that you can go to him in fellowship and receive of him ought to spark joy deep down in your heart. He says, joy, going back, I'm finishing John chapter 3. Watch, he says, and this is the commandment that we have, that we should believe on the name of his Son, Jesus Christ, and love one another as he commanded. Listen, believing, obeying, living, you cannot separate them. They all, believing, loving, obeying.
All right.
I cannot have one without the other. They all have to work together. You can't love God and not love people. It's impossible. You can't say you believe Jesus and don't love people. All three of these things go together. So he says, listen, he says, this commandment, this is not something that is optional. This is something that has to manifest in your life. It has to be exuding from your spirit. It has to be something that you desire above everything. Because this is how you please the Lord. But watch this, he goes on to say, he says, and this is the commandment that we should believe on the name of his Son Jesus Christ, this faith and love, and he gave us his commandments. 24, and he that keepeth his commandment dwelleth in him, and he in him, and hereby we know that he abideth in us by the Spirit which he hath given us. Watch this. So watch this now. This idea of persuasion, what God is getting us to understand, it goes beyond our emotions. I am not born again because I feel like I'm born again. I'm not born again because if I was to look at some areas in my life, I would really be questioning the fact whether I was born again or not. I would have to say, oh, no, because born again should be this, and this. No, that's not what he said. Listen, you are born again based upon what God has already said. And the fact that you believed on his Son. And the fact you obey. And the fact that you love. You are born again. You are born again. And the testimony or the testament to the fact that you are born again is not because you feel the Spirit of God in you.
All right.
Because you can't feel the Spirit of God in you. Oh, Pastor, you're messing me up. Because so many people walk around, oh, I feel the anointing. The anointing of God is coming over me.
All right.
So do you mean to tell me you don't have the Spirit residing in you when you don't feel the anointing coming over you? And the anointing of God has not come over you so that you don't have the Spirit of God in you? No. That's our inner response. Or that is some arbitrary thing that we do in and of our own flesh that manifests, that makes us confident in the fact that we're born again, where the anointing is on us. But guess what? I don't have to feel a tingle or nothing. And I'm still anointed. You ain't got to put no oil on me. I'm still anointed. You got to pray on me. You ain't got to lay hands on me. I'm still anointed. All my anointing comes from is my faith. And hey, my life, some of the things in the life don't look anointed, but guess what? It's still anointed. Even though it might not manifest like I want it to, I don't feel comfortable with it. It's still anointed. The life is still anointed. All I've got to do is confirm with the Spirit of God that's in me. That Spirit is not something I can touch or feel all the time. I know it's down deep on the inside because God said it's there. So since He said it's there, and I believe it, it's there. So I am the anointed of God. I am the called of God. God has purposed you in this day, in this time, during this season, to do a work for Him. It don't matter if you got a title or not. It don't matter if you're sitting in the front or the back. God has a plan for you. God has a purpose for you because He said so. You might not feel it. You might not even understand it. But God still is working on you. He knows what He put inside of you. You just got to let it come on out. You just got to yield to the Spirit of God. You just got to let God be God. You just got to give it over to Jesus. Let Him work it out. Follow His instruction. Let Him speak into your spirit. Follow what He says. Do all that you can do. Pray and seek Him daily. Wake up in the morning. Go to bed at night. Operate in the noonday. Whatever God has called you to, you have the power. You